Thank you. My apologies. I was to have announced the arrival of His Honor, Brigadier-General, the Honorable J.J. Grant, Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia, and Mrs. John Grant. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Shilling Ceremony 2017. I am Ann Smith-Boswick. I'm a member of the Point Pleasant Park Advisory Committee. Our mandate is to protect and to work with the staff to maintain these natural forests of 75 hectares of woodlands for the enjoyment of you, the residents, and visitors from around the world. I would like to introduce as well our Deputy Mayor, Steve Craig, Chair of the Point Pleasant Park Advisory Committee, Paula Minikin, Supervisor of Major Parks of HRM, Steve Rice. We have Anya Heavey and Hannah Ransom, as well as Thomas Ransom. Thank you.
So welcome. I do want to say that although the park was rented to us in 1866, the rent wasn't due for the first couple of years, and we think that was a long-term rental incentive. As of today, there are 855 years left in this lease. We also wish to acknowledge today that Point Pleasant Park is traditional and ancestral territory of the original Mi'kmaq peoples and is unceded territory, and we are all treaty peoples.
I'd like to ask our children please to come forward and present. These young people have done some beautiful drawings for your honor and Mrs. Grant. Would you like to come forward, Hannah and Sonia?
Special visitor.
Very natural. Call forward the Deputy Mayor, Stephen Craig, please.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I have some prepared remarks. I hope you don't mind. They're not too lengthy. So, Your Honor, Mrs. Grant, Ms. Boswick-Smith, Minigan, Rice, children, members of the Point Pleasant Park Advisory Board, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be with you here on the sun's breaking through. Isn't this wonderful? On this afternoon. On behalf of Mayor Mike Savage, who is away on a much-earned vacation, he sends his regrets and fond wishes. And my colleagues on Regional Council today here to celebrate the treasure that is Point Pleasant Park. And of course, to pay the rightful dues as owners that might be to the Crown that we are. Halifax pays a shilling a year for 999 years to rent 75 hectares of the land that we call Point Pleasant Park. This area has a military significance and also, too, has a history of natural disasters. Like Hurricane Juan. I believe some of you may have experienced Hurricane Juan. However, it is the beauty and leisure and recreation uses that we enjoy today and for centuries to come. I'm going to tell you my age. Not specifically, but as a child, I remember family picnics and swimming at Loch Rack Beach. Wonderful times, wonderful memories. As an adult runner, about 25 pounds ago, I logged many miles through Point Pleasant Park and came to embrace what you know as Serpentine or Cable Hill. And being a hardcore runner at the time, one of my most memorable runs was on a rainy winter's day. It's coming around the point, heading back into the Northwest Arm, when the sun, like now, broke through the clouds and revealed the natural beauty of ice-laden boughs bending to the ground. How can you forget something like that? Or how can you not experience something like that and have an indelible mark left in your mind? Through all seasons, one can observe our citizens and visitors taking time to enjoy the park's many facets, whether it be the 39 kilometers of trails, many of them wheelchair accessible, and also too, a hand to dry. Ms. Minikin just offered to help me, and I do appreciate it, but I think I've got it now. The historical icons, and even Shakespeare by the Sea on a midsummer's eve. And in large part, all of this is managed and furthered by the volunteer board of the Point Pleasant Park Advisory. It says Point Pleasant Advisory Committee, so it's not really Point Pleasant Park Advisory Committee, or is it?
I think it's
Yeah, okay.
actually.
So my notes are wrong, I'm right. It includes Ms. Minikin as the chair, and Ms. Boswick Smith as the vice chair, and 8 members of the committee, and my colleague, Councillor Wayne Mason, who represent the district here in Halifax South downtown. I thank you all for your participation and your guidance. So now it's time to pay our dues on the lease of this wonderful property. And I must say, Your Honor, that the municipality's financial situation is strong. We spend within our means. We have been reducing our debt. While it is quite an ambitious prospect with 861 years of payments left after today, I am confident that Point Pleasant Park will remain intact for the benefit of current and future generations. So, Your Honor, I'm digging deeply into my pocket for the 1 shilling owing for the year and pay Her Majesty's representative, you, Your Honor, this 1 shilling. I want proof.
Get the receipt.
Deputy Mayor Craig, Mr. Minikin, members of the Point Pleasant Park Advisory Committee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. certainly a great pleasure for Mrs. Grant and I to join you this afternoon for the shilling ceremony where the city of Halifax has now presented the annual rent of 1 shilling to the Crown for the use of Point Pleasant Park. I'm sure probably Her Majesty the Queen is waiting with anticipation for the shilling to cross the water. Point Pleasant Park, which is the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples, has long been enjoyed by residents and visitors alike for a multitude of events and activities. These activities include commemorative ceremonies, Shakespearean performances, and picnicking, to make a few. For exercise enthusiasts, as you've heard the Deputy Mayor say, this park is a natural gymnasium set aside on the edges of beautiful Halifax Harbour. One must also remember, as we see today, the many dog lovers and their pets who use the park daily. These various forms of usage did not always exist, and we cannot forget that the park was once a vital part of the defense of Halifax Harbour in times of war and conflict. The citizens of Halifax are most fortunate to have a park of this magnitude in the midst of the city, and we know how much the park is cherished. This was never more evident, as you've already heard, when people were quite heartbroken by the widespread devastation inflicted by Hurricane Juan in 2003. I would venture to say that the terrible damage made many citizens realize how lucky they are to have such a jewel of a park, and they sat up and paid attention to its recovery and its future. Today's ceremony is also an opportunity where we can gather and pay tribute to those who had the remarkable foresight to designate this park and this place for recreation, reflection, and to appreciate the natural environment. The shilling ceremony also allows us to acknowledge and be thankful for the excellent cooperation between the Crown, federal, military, and local bodies in the creation and the maintenance of this urban park. I congratulate the organizers on a wonderful event that captures so well the unique relationship between Point Pleasant Park and the Crown. I thank you for your efforts in organizing this symbolic event that speaks to the history and the heart of Halifax. I'm also delighted to have brownies and beavers with us in part of today's ceremony. Before I end my remarks, I wish to commend and thank the Point Pleasant Park Advisory Committee on successfully meeting its mandate to protect and direct the maintenance of the natural woodlands for all to enjoy for many years to come. To conclude, I am honored to participate in today's ceremony on behalf of the Crown. It is my great desire that this wonderful park will be enjoyed for generations to come. Mrs. Grant and I wish everyone a wonderful afternoon. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Your Honor. We've organized the sun. I hope you're very impressed. We've all lived very well. I want to just especially mention, as I remarked earlier, Steve Rice, the supervisor of our park and the major parks of HRM. Also, the Halifax Citadel Regimental Association for their support in providing our wonderful drummer and piper this afternoon. Also, Mike Gillette and Scott and Phoebe Ray from HRM. I also would like to recognize our committee, as a number of you gentlemen have mentioned. If you want to just put your hands up, there's quite a few of us here. Thank you very much, and we're hoping to increase awareness of the attributes and the history of this fantastic park. Such a gift. In closing, the official closing of the shilling ceremony for 2017, I would just like to mention that we did receive a special guest here today, a wonderful lady who is actually, I believe, 92 or 97? Or 97 years old. And she's visiting here, and she actually lived in our gatehouse for how many years?
15 years.
Pardon me?
15.
15 years. So So, and then we have another gentleman from Scotland here as well. So, and there's a number of wonderful little history stories from different people who have come out today. So I do appreciate you coming, and thank you so much. So the ceremony is officially closed, but we do have, provided by the city, we have some sandwiches and cookies and sweets and tea. So you please feel free to mingle and enjoy our park. Thank you again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Paula Minikin, and I'm the chair of the Point Pleasant Park Advisory Committee.
So what happened here today?
We paid our rent. We have a 999-year lease from the Queen for this 75 acres that is Point Pleasant Park, and we owe a shilling a year.
So a shilling a year.
Yes.
What does that translate to, or convert to rather, in today's Canadian dollar?
It'd be a little less than 8 cents. So it's a pretty good deal.
So yeah, that's not bad, I guess, compared to other rental prices in.
Especially in this end of town.
Yeah. So why does the municipality have to do this?
Well, it really is. At the time, before it became a park, this was actually a military garrison, and the military was leaving it as a garrison and wanted to preserve it as a natural park for the recreation and enjoyment of the citizens of Halifax. So rather than give it, which, you know, if you think about it, if they owned it, they could have developed it or something else. They did lease it for 999 years for a shilling a year, which is really just a token.
So how many more years do we have to go?
Well, it's actually 855, and if you do the math and you go, well, it was 1866, how does that happen? The lease was signed, but the rent didn't become due right away. It was a few years between when the lease was signed and rent became due. So there's 855 years left on the lease.
So help me with the math here. When is the lease up?
Oh gosh, 2,700 and what is
Somewhere
this?
around
Yeah.
there. So when it is up, what happens next?
Well, you know, I think people then are going to have to figure out that plan. They're going to have to renegotiate it, maybe.
Do you think we'll get the lease back, or do you think they'll want to keep it?
I think they'll want to keep it. I think we'll want to keep it, yeah, and I think they'll let us.
Something for future generations to worry
Oh,
about.
yeah, exactly. It
And-
won't be my problem.
And so how did the ceremony go?
Very well. It's fun. We had little brownies and beavers who drew some pictures for the Lieutenant Governor and his wife, and very happy to have some great people with stories and history that came here. This Mrs. Griswold grew up in this house, and she's 97, and that was her bedroom when she was a kid. How cool is that? So just people it's got a big place in people's hearts. This is a wonderful spot.
And so this will continue in
Yes.
future years?
We're actually, next year will be the 145th paying of the shilling. So we did this one under the excellent guidance of Ann Boswick, and she's the vice chair of our committee. And she's taking it on to make it a little bigger and a little better for next year. But yes, we are going to do that. Very exciting.
A little bigger and better. What does that mean?
I don't know. We'll see what she has planned.
All right.